Good morning, everyone. We're going to get started just as soon as the attendees kind of slow down a little bit. I appreciate you all being here, and I apologize for the small delay that we had. All right, it looks like our attendees are starting to slow down, so we're going to go ahead and get started today. Welcome, everyone, to the Bureau of Disability Services presentation on dignity, respect, and control. My name is Sarah Van Sickle. I'm the Quality and Training Manager for Liberty for the Bureau of Disability Services, and I'm joined today by Richard Probes, Director of Provider Services for the Bureau of Disability Services, and Kate Trackman, Behavior Specialist for Liberty for the Bureau of Disability Services. We'll start with just a few housekeeping things. Please remember that we have the chat box that you can use for immediate technical issues. And you're also going to use that chat box throughout the presentation if there's any questions that we may ask for you to respond to. The Q&A button is going to be used if you have questions that you would like to ask during the presentation. Closed captioning is available if you use the CC button at the bottom of your screen. Within about 24 hours, there's going to be an email generated to you from Zoom, and that will serve as your verification of your attendance today. There will also be a link to an evaluation. We just ask that everybody please fill that out and send it back in. This recording is going to be uploaded to the FSSA YouTube channel after we get done with this presentation. It'll be probably about a week to a week and a half. Today's agenda includes a discussion on the importance of the individual's dignity, respect, and control, how honoring rights and choices promote dignity, respect, and control, how control gives us a sense of empowerment and reduces power struggles, and how free will and choice can be misinterpreted as noncompliance. We began a deep dive into the home and community-based settings rule with the topic of supporting choice in September. During that presentation, we discussed best practices in supporting individuals to make choices. We discussed 6 strategies: having conversations, spending time with individuals, sharing options, helping the individual weigh options, listening, and honoring choice. Today, we're going to build on that discussion and talk about how dignity, respect, and control are important in supporting individuals in making choices. We'll touch on how the 6 strategies discussed in September are connected to dignity, respect, and control. And then in March, we're going to focus on restrictions. We'll talk about how and when to restrict and what can be restricted. And in May, we will address those rules associated with provider-owned and controlled settings and when and how the rules can be modified. Today's topic is dignity, respect, and control. We hope that after the presentation, you have a better understanding of how to support people to feel respected and empowered. The HCBS settings rule says home and community-based services should be organized in a person-centered manner, driven by the needs and preferences of individuals, and that services acknowledge the rights of individuals to privacy, dignity, and respect. That means individuals participating in waiver services control their services and supports and are to be treated with dignity and respect in a way that includes acknowledging and honoring their preferences. Individuals participating in waiver services have the same rights to dignity, respect, and control as people not receiving waiver services. Just like everyone else, individuals with disabilities have a voice, thoughts, feelings, and the right and responsibility to be included in every conversation that is about them or that is taking place around them. Let's get on some common ground. What is dignity? The Universal Declaration of Human Rights, created by the United Nations, states, all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. Dignity is an inherent human right. Dignity is one of the most important things to the human spirit. It's all about being valued and respected for what you are, what you believe in, and how you live your life. Every human has the right to lead a dignified life and fulfill their potential. Young, old, rich, poor, disabled, non-disabled, all share the right to be treated with dignity. Having dignity means being treated with respect. Dignity is something that every person possesses simply by existing. Dignity and respect are linked, but they are not the same. If dignity means being valued and respected for who you are, what you believe in, and how you live your life, what does respect mean? If you can take a moment and type in the chat your definition of respect, Kate's going to review a couple of those and then she will read those before we move on.
We'll give everybody a couple seconds to type in the chat and read some of the responses. We have some responses coming in. We have valuing others and valuing yourself, being heard, being honored and valued, being treated without bias or judgment, regard for other people's feelings and abilities, giving options, being listened to, and listening without imposing judgment.
Thanks, Kate. Typically, when I ask for a definition of respect, you don't get a real definition. People say things like treating people politely or nicely, listening to people, or sometimes you get a lot of shoulder shrugs and maybe some blank stares. CMS didn't define respect. They described what an HCBS setting should be like, what person-centered planning should look like, and that a home and community-based setting ensures an individual's rights of privacy, dignity, respect, and freedom from coercion and restraint, and optimize individual initiative, autonomy, and independence in making life choices or control. A good definition of respect is caring for the feelings of others through your actions. It's the idea that you, first, understand that someone has particular wants and needs, and that second, your actions don't interfere with those things. Respect means that you acknowledge other people's thoughts and opinions, and that you care enough to consider how your words and or actions impact others. If we think about respect in this way, it will help us to implement the HCBS settings rule. We have a responsibility to treat people in a manner that supports them to live with that inherent right to dignity and respect. This includes ensuring that the culture supports individuals to speak up whether they agree or disagree. We have a responsibility to ask people for their opinions, to acknowledge the individual's opinion, and to honor them. All three actions are critical. We must ask because that means we are interested and care about what the individuals think. We must acknowledge to demonstrate that we heard what they said. And we must honor because if we ask and acknowledge and don't honor, that may be the biggest sign of disrespect. Some people say respect is about the golden rule. You've probably heard of the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. But have you heard about the platinum rule? The platinum rule asks you to do unto others whenever possible as they would want to be done to them. The golden rule could be interpreted as kindness, especially considering that it implies ignoring other people's needs and imposing our preferences. The platinum rule is about much more than kindness. It is about empathy and compassion. It is respectful. The platinum rule requires us to know how the person wants to be treated and treat them in that way. Respect is treating others how they want to be treated and acknowledging their thoughts and opinions. It includes caring enough to consider how words and actions impact others and caring about how your actions impact others. When we treat people with consideration, courtesy, and kindness, we are demonstrating that we believe in the inherent worth and value of each person. This links respect to dignity. Remembering that dignity and respect are linked but not the same, let's take a minute and discuss some examples of respect and lack of respect. Knowing how the individual wants to be treated and treating them in that way may be easier said than done. So let's understand with some stories and examples. When it's time for Natasha's PCISP, members of her support team set out to ensure the meeting is respectful and empowering. They talk with Natasha about what she wants to talk about and what she doesn't want to talk about, who she wants to invite to the meeting, and if there are people she would prefer not to be there. Natasha reminds them that she doesn't like to talk about Rachel when her mother is around because her mother doesn't want Natasha to spend time with Rachel. They plan with Natasha about what day and time works for her. And she says that she wants to meet on Saturday at 10:30 because that gives her mom enough time to get there. And then she and her mom will enjoy going out to lunch after the meeting. They also plan on where to meet. Since they are meeting on a Saturday, Natasha says she would prefer to meet at the library because her roommate will be at the house and she doesn't want them to be inconvenienced. The agenda and invitations go out to the list of people that Natasha wants invited for Saturday at 10:30 at the library. The agenda only includes the topics Natasha wants discussed, and we all know they will not talk about Rachel. The team talked with Natasha, asked for her input, and honored her wants and needs. Their actions demonstrated respect for Natasha. Think about all the things that happen in the next example when Amos and his organization could have done better. Amos provides support to individuals participating in an employment training program. There is a small group of 5 individuals working as a job crew at a local business. The job crew has been invited to participate in a day of giving with other employees. They are volunteering at a local food pantry. Amos and the organization he works for decides the job crew should wear bright green shirts with the name of the organization on the back. Amos and the other staff will wear a white polo with the organization's name, logo, and staff on the front. There are obvious differences in these examples. The staff supporting Natasha carefully asked for her opinion, acknowledged what she said, and honored her request. Amos and the organization he works for made decisions for the members of the job crew without asking for their input or opinion. And many of us would say it was disrespectful that the job crew members were treated differently than the staff by having them wear different shirts. There are many things Amos could have done to be sure that he and the organization he represents treated people with respect. Building a culture where people feel valued and respected takes effort. It requires us to be thoughtful and intentional. So there are many things we can do. There are some small things that go a long way to demonstrate that we are promoting our belief in dignity and acting in respectful ways. The way we communicate is a great way to demonstrate respect. Keeping in mind everyone is different and everyone has preferences, here are some things to remember when you are communicating with people. Always refer to people by their preferred name and pronouns. It's important when meeting someone to ask what they want to be called. I recall a time when a person receiving HCBS services was talking with her new case manager. The case manager called her by her first name, and she looked at him and said, "My name is Ann. You can call me Miss Carlson." The other day, I was talking with an individual who had called in for a complaint, and they introduced themselves as Tommy Clarkson. I asked them for their preferred name. The person said, "I go by Courtney." After my conversation, I looked up Courtney's PCISP. Nowhere in the record did it say that the preferred name was Courtney. It did not mention the preferred pronouns. If I had not asked Courtney their preferred name, I would have not been able to share that piece of information with the quality reviewer, and Courtney would have to tell the story again because we didn't listen, acknowledge, and honor the preferences or share the information in the PCISP. You should refrain from using labels or pet names. This would include things like my people, my individuals, my guys, my girls, or calling someone sis, bro, hun, babe, honey, or darling. It's also important to remember when helping an individual get dressed or with a personal task, talk with them explaining what you are doing for or with them. Keep in mind, sometimes people don't want or need help. Ask if they want help. Suppose you are helping someone with a visual impairment to change their clothes. Describe their clothing options, encouraging them to choose what they want to wear. Explain the steps like I'm putting the blue shirt over your head. Grab hold so you can pull your shirt down. Now, do you want me to snap a few of the snaps on your shirt? Or imagine an individual is getting ready to drink a Coke. They seem to be struggling with opening the can. Instead of taking the can and saying, "Here, I can do that for you," say something like, "Sometimes those cans can be hard to open. Do you want some help?" Always make sure you are listening when someone is talking to you. Practice active listening by acknowledging what they are saying, and if needed and wanted, support the individual in communicating with others. Recently, Esther and Gertie were watching television. When a Red Robin commercial came on, Esther signed "I eat" and pointed to the television. Gertie asked her if she had eaten at Red Robin. Esther shook her head no. Gertie tried again, asking if she wanted to go to Red Robin. Esther signed yes. Gertie knew that Esther was planning to go out to eat with George next week, so she asked Esther, "Do you want to go to Red Robin with George when you go out to eat next week?" Esther was very excited. George asked her why. Esther signed "You and me eat" and pointed to the TV. Gertie asked Esther if Gertie could help her tell George about what she just saw on TV. Esther said yes, and Gertie helped Esther to tell George that Gertie wanted to go to Red Robin next week. George said, "It's a plan." Remember to follow up on your promises. If someone asks for information or for something that you are unsure about, take the necessary steps to support them to get the information. For example, you're talking in the car about going to the movies. The individual says they want to go see the movie Migration, but they don't know when it's coming out. It's easy enough to get the information, but you're driving. When you get home, you can help the person search on the internet to get the information about when it's coming out, and that will likely lead to wanting to know more, like what theaters, what times, how long is the movie, and other logistics. How we say things is important as what we say. Condescending language and tone, as well as any abusive language or tone, is never acceptable. And of course, nothing about me without me. This is something that we talk about in each presentation. Include the individual in conversations and decision making. Nothing about us without us. Liz Weintraub, a national leader in self-advocacy and policy, talks a lot about this well-traveled but relevant phrase. Nothing about us without us. We are just going to show you a part of Miss Weintraub's Tuesdays with Liz. Nothing about us without us.
Policy. In the self-advocacy community, there's a saying called "nothing about us without us," and we hold that so dear to us. People are still talking about us without us in the room. Can you imagine that? We're talking about 2018. There's still conversations that are happening about us without us. And yes, we might not understand everything, but that's not a reason for people to exclude us. I want to make sure that everyone can use their voices. Go to the AUCD webpage and look for your usage. You can also use websites like Facebook or Twitter to help tell your story and share your voice. And remember, the bottom line is if something is involving you, then you need to be in that room or in that discussion. There's two things that I want you to do. Share your story and nothing about us without us.
I can't imagine that 10 years later, people with disabilities are not at the table. Decisions are still being made about individuals without their input. We must do better. When supporting an individual with disabilities, it's important to provide personal care in a manner that is respectful to the individual. Keep in mind that the individual's culture, beliefs, values, and level of comfort. Many people with disabilities have experienced trauma. Trauma can impact how people want and should be supported, especially when providing personal care. If an individual had a traumatic experience in the bathtub, they may be more comfortable using a shower. Or if they've experienced violence, that individual may prefer a staff of a certain gender or who do not have a certain characteristic. For example, if a person was mistreated by a woman with a deep voice, they may prefer a male staff or a woman with a higher voice. Be careful not to assume that preferences are simply a bias. There may be a deeper reason for that choice. When providing wellness services, do this in a way that the individual chooses. If the person takes medication or has routine monitoring, do you have conversations about the person's preferences? Do they want to take their medications in their bedroom or perhaps in the kitchen, but only if no one else is around? Does the nurse make an appointment before going to see the individual at home or the day program? Evaluate what practices in your organization promote dignity and respect and protects the individual's privacy, as well as look for opportunities to do better. Personal concerns should not be discussed in a community or public setting, in the presence of friends or anyone else that the person does not want to hear or should not have access to the information. Be careful that due to a lack of experience or education, a person may talk about personal matters like their health in public. We can and should take the opportunity to offer privacy. For example, Tariq stopped one of his favorite staff in the hall at the day program and started talking about how the nurse told Tariq he had to give up soda because he was getting fat. The staff, after acknowledging that Tariq must be upset about this, invited him to go to a private place so they could talk about what was happening. Ensure dignity when providing personal care in public. If someone you are caring for requires support in the bathroom, look for places that ensure privacy. This may require the person providing support to visit ahead of time and make sure there are places that will support the individual's needs. If an individual is interested in going someplace where it might be difficult to meet the individual's needs, the support person should work with the individual to determine the best way to meet the needs of the individual. Let's say Luis loves going to the local park to watch Little League football. Although the restroom is accessible, there is not an adult changing table, and it's hard for Luis to change without a changing table that will support an adult. Staff may scope out if there is a nearby public area that is equipped with the changing table, or they may decide that they can only go to the game for a short period of time so Luis can go home to change. When staff are out with an individual of the opposite gender, how do they support the person to use the restroom? Hopefully, there are family restrooms, but if not, make sure the decision is based on the needs of the individual, not the person providing the support. I've waited outside the men's restroom a number of times, so when it was empty, I could go in with the gentleman and provide needed supports. If you're lucky enough to have sufficient male and female staff, that can be helpful too. Support individuals to exercise choice. Follow the steps we have talked about in past sessions. However, as we discussed earlier today, our responsibility is to ask, acknowledge, and honor. When we ask, we must listen. When we listen, we must acknowledge. And when we listen, we must honor. If there is a legitimate reason not to honor the individual's choice, we must ask, again, talk to the person, explaining that we heard them and why we can't do that. Of course, we rely on what is written in the PCISP to make those decisions. The restroom may not be our biggest challenge when honoring choice. Often, we will run into situations where the people in the individual's life that are important to them, such as the guardian, family member or spouse, friend, or another staff, because of their own bias, make it difficult to ensure that they are treated respectfully, that their personal choices are honored. Say one of the influential people has ideas about what's best for the person that doesn't match what we know the individual wants or needs. It might even be the individuals are uncomfortable, and hopefully we are too, because of the way this person they care about treats them or talks to them. There are many reasons guardians, brothers, sisters, spouses, or friends may act in disrespectful ways. It may be because the other person does not see the individual's strengths, that they may not understand why something is important, or it may be habit. They most likely are not intentionally being disrespectful. However, we know it is not respectful when an adult with disabilities is treated as a child, or when the individual's wants and needs are not honored, or when certain language is used. Rose's family was going on a road trip, so they made arrangements for Rose to spend a few days in respite. The staff providing the respite took Rose's family and asked them to send some money with her so that Rose could go shopping or go out to eat or to some local events when she was at the respite. Rose said, I would love to go out to eat. Rose's mother said Rose doesn't need to go out to eat. Just going to respite is a vacation for her. Rose's mother ignored Rose's excitement about going out to eat, and Rose's demeanor changed. This was very troubling for Rose and the respite staff. Fortunately, I suppose, there's a somewhat happy ending to the story. The organization made sure that Rose had the money to go out to eat and to a movie. Rose was very happy at the respite, and although there was not something that could be done for Rose in that event, her care manager did talk with the staff at the day program about doing some rights and advocacy training. There seem to be many opportunities for education, not just with individuals, but with the supporters that are paid and unpaid, and even in the public. As a support person, we must take time to teach individuals about self-advocacy skills, rights, and how to prepare them for discussions about what is important to them. By working on these skills, we support individuals to take control of situations in a respectful way. When we support individuals to gain knowledge and skills and treat them with dignity and respect, individuals can become empowered. When individuals are empowered, they take control of their lives. There is an opportunity to learn from successes and mistakes or mishaps if they should occur. All decisions have outcomes, and outcomes may have both positive and negative consequences. We've all made decisions that when we look back on, we cringe. But even in the worst situations, we may be able to see something positive. Taking responsibility for mistakes and credit for successes facilitates growth. Growth may involve having conversations about what worked, what didn't, and what to do differently to get a more positive outcome. This is empowerment. Nothing stifles empowerment as much as destructive criticism or I told you so type language or behaviors. It's our responsibility to nurture, encourage, and support growth. Treating people with dignity and respect means avoiding stifling control and empowerment. The Oxford Dictionary defines empowerment as a process in which one becomes stronger and more confident, especially in controlling one's lives and claiming one's rights. This definition falls in line with the HCBS settings rule. Let's look at some of the other strategies that empower individuals and ensure they are in control. Individuals who are empowered take control of their lives. People who are empowered are more likely to exercise their rights and make choices. Having more experiences with choice and control may lead to improved decision-making skills. Over the next few slides, we're going to talk about what empowerment looks like in daily lives. These are simple strategies to build confidence and support individuals to claim their rights. Empowerment looks like keys and visitors. People should have a key to their home. We frequently hear that people don't want or need a key because they always go out with staff. Regardless, the person should have the key. Sometimes individuals, especially those who have lived in services for a long time, lack experience with keys. The key can be in the person's backpack, wallet, or purse. When they return home with staff, the staff can remind the individual that they have a key in their backpack and ask if they would like to unlock and open their door. That will help the individual gain experience with using a key and learning that having a key symbolizes that this is their home. Be careful not to assume that because someone has a tendency to misplace things that they can't be responsible for keys. Don't be the staff who says, oh, well, Kathy's always losing things. She can't be responsible for the keys. I'm just going to hold on to them. Be the staff who provides the support that Kathy needs to learn the importance of having keys and being responsible. People should have visitors. Individuals decide who visits them, when they have visitors, and perhaps as importantly, when not to have visitors. Remembering that it is the individual's home, the individual should open the door for their visitors. Often, the individuals share their homes. Together, the individuals decide who comes into their home. No one should be in the home unless they are invited by one of the individuals living in the home, whether it is a visitor or staff. Visitors should not be required to sign in or sign out. Remember, the staff are spending time in the individual's home. The individual does not live in the staff's place of work. Empowerment also looks like mail and grocery shopping. People should be handling their mail. It is their mail. It may be that the individual gets the mail from the mailbox and puts it in a designated place in the home. Individuals might open their mail or decide who opens it. For example, Herbert doesn't like to walk up and down the driveway to get his mail. He asks his staff to pick up the mail and put it in the kitchen counter. He has certain staff that help him with certain things. Jennifer helps him with his bills, and Marks helps him with his medical appointments and other things. While the individual may not be able to do it all independently, they should be in control of their mail, just like Herbert. People should also be involved in grocery shopping. During some recent COPPers, organizations have shared that since COVID, grocery shopping is done online. For many people, that's a good practice. However, it is still expected that individuals be involved to whatever degree they want. The person might want to sit at the computer to pick out their food. They may want to make a list to share with the person ordering. They may want to be in their kitchen checking their stock and telling the staff, "I'm almost out of donuts. Please put some of those in the cart." Remember to check in often to make sure that the person wants to continue to shop online. Some people will be satisfied with shopping online, others will give it up quickly, and some will want a hybrid of online and in-person shopping. It is their money and their SNAP benefits. This is the perfect time to remember nothing about me without me. There are bigger choices than grocery shopping or opening the door. Let's talk about empowerment and deciding on the daily schedule, money, and relationships. People control their daily schedules. They choose when they go to bed, what time they get up, how they spend their leisure time, and when and what they eat. When we support people to take control, they're empowered to make choices and take more control. Following the steps we have talked about in making choices, we can learn how to support individuals in controlling their daily schedule and making change. People control their money. Supporting individuals to manage their money in the same way that people who do not receive waiver services is necessary and empowering. Individuals typically have different education and experience with money. Often, we as supporters and in the interest of protecting the individual, fail to empower individuals. We focus on protection, demonstrating prerequisites instead of concentrating on how or what supports will empower the person. While preparing this presentation, I was listening to some videos. There's a strong group of self-advocates in Vermont called the Green Mountain Self-Advocates. One of the members was talking about presuming that individuals with disabilities are capable. Actually, what he said was, assume we are capable of being awesome. If we presume individuals are capable of carrying their money, of using a debit card, paying the cashier, making decisions to save for a new cell phone or to stop saving for a new cell phone and buy a concert ticket, we may be surprised at how capable people are. During a recent STAR team consultation, the team learned an individual was selling his belongings to buy gifts for his wife who lived in a group home. It was important to him that when he was visited, he had a gift for her. The team knew he was getting rid of his stuff, but did not know why. Once they learned the why, they were able to strategize on other ways he could obtain gifts for her. And I can hear some of you saying, but what about when someone has a rep payee? And you're right. Some people have rep payee for their benefits, and we're going to talk about the role of the rep payee in the next training. People control their relationships. They decide who they want to spend time with. They decide what they do with their friends and their family. Many individuals have great relationships. Others may not have the same number or types of relationships they want. Some people want to have many relationships, and others prefer a few close friends. It takes a long time to learn about individuals' preferences for relationships, and those preferences may change over time. Relationships may be complicated. We only need to look around us to see that there are many challenges. Supporting people in the way they choose to have experiences to make and maintain relationships must be personalized. What works for one person may not work for another. Joe, for example, has many interests. He loves fishing, riding his bike, and watching sports. He seems to make friends wherever he goes. When Joe goes anywhere, he always runs into someone he knows. Yet, Joe is not happy. He wants to have a girlfriend. His mom suggested church was a good place to meet a nice girl, and that hasn't worked out, and it's interfering a bit with going to the neighborhood bar to watch the Colts games on Sunday afternoon. Someone else suggested that maybe he could find a single girl who liked watching the Colts. So staff started giving him tips on talking to girls at the neighborhood bar. Well, that hasn't worked so well yet, but Joe is enjoying spending more time at the bar, so he's hopeful. Someone else suggested Joe use a dating app. He's seriously considering that one. Warren is quiet and shy and would really like to make a few new friends. He just moved into the neighborhood. He went with Joe to the bar a few times, but he didn't really enjoy it. Warren started going for walks in the neighborhood and has been visiting with one of his neighbors quite a bit. Yesterday, he invited her out for coffee, so he's hopeful. Respecting people's preferences, offering opportunities, and helping to evaluate are ways to support people taking control. People take control of their lives. Being empowered to make choices can be scary for organizations, families, staff, and the state. In previous sessions, we've talked about dignity of risk. Dignity of risk is the idea that self-determination and the rights to take reasonable risks are essential for dignity and self-esteem. We've not spoken about duty of care. Duty of care is a legal term. It is about following a standard of reasonable care to avoid careless acts that could foreseeably harm others and lead to claims of negligence. We as paid supporters have a responsibility to promote safety and well-being. Dignity of risk and duty of care are directly related to empowerment. Empowerment, dignity of risk, and duty of care all fit with the 6 strategies to support people in making choices. Knowing what is important to and important for individuals guides us as supporters to exercise due diligence and care so that we are true to our duty of care and yet do not interfere with the individual's right to dignity of risk. The PCISP guides supporters in balancing dignity of risk and duty of care. There must be balance of dignity of risk and duty of care. Using the 6 strategies are empowering and provide a framework for balancing dignity of risk and duty of care. People will feel empowered when we have conversations with them, when we spend time with them, getting to know them, when we support them in learning about options, when we help the individual weigh options, when we listen, and when we honor choice. Treating people with dignity empowers them. When people are empowered and take control, they exercise free will. Free will is about acting on one's own discretion. People will not feel empowered if we do not act, listen, and act. When we mistake our duty of care as a responsibility to protect individuals, an individual may communicate through their actions, which we may consider a behavior or report as an incident. An incident can be an opportunity to use strategies for choice to support the individual and staff in communicating about what happened, why, and what could be better. If we think back to the story a bit ago about the man, let's call him Alex, who was selling his belongings so he could buy things for his wife. If we look at the incident, Alex sold his television to the neighbor for $50, way less than the TV was worth. Everyone was concerned that the neighbor was taking advantage of Alex. The team could have decided that Alex shouldn't spend time with Jack, the neighbor, anymore. Instead, they had a conversation with Alex and asked why he sold his TV. Once they knew why, they helped Alex develop a budget. Alex decided what he would stop spending his money on. So Alex still hangs out with Jack, has a bit of money to buy small gifts, and has one staff that helps Alex make things for his wife. Sometimes when individuals take controls of their lives and make choices, we as professionals struggle with our duty to care. We want individuals to be healthy and safe. Individuals with and without disabilities may make poor choices. They may appear to act without apparent regard for health and safety or any constraint. Free will is easily confused with non-compliance. We've talked about choice today and in the last session. Too frequently in discussions about choice, we fail to talk about an obvious choice, the choice to say no. Individuals can advocate for the life they want. Sometimes we offer options, but we frequently do not offer no as an option. Supporting individuals to exercise their right of free will to say no can be difficult. Supporting people to make choices that others may not agree with is hard. It is a learning experience. All of us are presented with choices each day, and all of us respond to those opportunities in the way we deem best for us. The choices we make are not the same choices that everyone else would make. We make choices based on our own life experiences, on the consequences and benefits of similar choices that we have made, and on the support or lack of support we get from trusted people and resources that we have available. And of course, we frequently make choices based on how it will impact others, especially people we care about. Supporting people to make choices, as we discussed in the last session and in this session, is about supporting people to learn about their options, evaluate their options, and to understand the potential outcomes and consequences. This promotes informed decision making. Decision making supports always include education about informed choice and natural consequences. Making choices and living with the outcome of our choice is essential to our emotional growth. And emotional growth helps us develop dignity. We feel good when people listen to us and value our opinions. Respect is important to us. It makes us feel good about who we are. It reinforces and empowers us to speak up about what we want. Sometimes our message comes across in words and sometimes in our actions. Sometimes the actions are not recognized as a right to say no and get added to a behavior support plan as non-compliance. In some cases, tracking non-compliance can be confusing to an individual. If we say to someone, you have the right to make your own choices, and then we write it in a BSP that they will lose their community outing if they do not make their bed, we have sent two different messages. If you work with individuals who have non-compliance in their BSPs, I encourage you to review them and see if you are sending mixed messages. Remember, our next session is on restrictions. We will talk about making certain that the restrictions, loss of participating in the community, fit that we are labeling non-compliance. Another way we diminish dignity without realizing it is when we write into an individual's PCISP or BSP that they are a false reporter. Have you ever been called a liar? And how did that make you feel? Knowing that you are not going to be listened to or trusted is hard. An unfortunate reality is that many people with disabilities have experienced trauma and potentially abuse, neglect, and exploitation. The Disability and Abuse Project produced a study concluding that more than 70% of people with disabilities reported being abused. This study and many others like it emphasize the importance of empowering individuals to say no, listening to individuals, as well as the importance of trauma-informed care. It is likely that this number could be higher as underreporting and concerns about credibility occur. Do you consider an individual's past life story before you label them as a false reporter? If no, please consider doing this in the future. If you need any additional information on trauma-informed care, there will be links on the resource page at the end of this presentation. We've talked a lot about people having the right to say no. Saying no is a form of self-advocacy. As providers, we should hold the microphone for individuals to say no and respect their choices, while providing them with the support that they desire during the decision-making process. In the last training, we talked about supporting people to choose their staff. People can say no to staff. They may decide that they don't want a particular staff person to work with them, but the staff person isn't working for them. 6 weeks ago, they may have said that the person was a good fit, but they could have changed their mind. Blanche interviewed Lauren, and Lauren was charming during the interview and said that she would love going to karaoke and baking. Blanche was excited, but after 6 weeks, whenever Blanche suggested a new recipe, Lauren said she wasn't in the mood and suggested a movie. Whenever Blanche and Lauren planned to go to Blanche's favorite karaoke spot, Lauren was all in. However, she never followed through. Blanche was displeased and wanted to change. Although the manager tried coaching Lauren and trying to work with Blanche through the dissatisfaction, Blanche did not want to work with Lauren anymore. So the organization said to Blanche, "It's not you, it's her. Let's see who we can find who is a better fit for you." There was no shaming or coaching Blanche to make it work. The organization said they would work with Blanche to find someone who met Blanche's expectations. Let's talk about Maggie, a self advocate who said no to her team and in return received the support she desired from her waiver services. Maggie loved caring for animals and she wanted to get a job at the local pet store caring for the cats that were for sale. When Maggie brought this to the attention of her team, they were initially hesitant. Maggie had not previously had job experience, and the team felt that Maggie needed additional supports to show that she could take a job before she jumped in and did it. Maggie said no. Maggie knew that she was ready for this job and was ready to move forward with her job application. The team honored Maggie's choice and asked her how they could support her in this process. Maggie requested help with writing her resume and asked that the team support her in learning how to ride the local bus so she could get to work. Maggie got that job, and she spent many years caring for cats. In different scenarios, maybe the job would not have worked out for Maggie, and that's okay. Each of us have our own definitions of success. Maybe the job would have taught Maggie that she preferred to work with dogs, or that she really didn't like cleaning up after cats. Maybe there was nothing she liked about the job, but she learned how to ride the bus and now loves to visit her friends at the local coffee shop, riding the bus to get there. None of these positive things would have happened if the team hadn't listened when Maggie said no. The respect shown towards Maggie to make her own decisions had a positive outcome. When choice is not honored, there can be a power struggle, which results in a negative outcome. Let's talk about Anthony. Anthony loves milkshakes. Anthony's been told by his doctor that he's lactose intolerant and that milk products were going to upset his stomach. A restriction was put in place that Anthony could not have any milk-based products. This bothered Anthony, and one day, while eating McDonald's with his housemates and staff, he ordered a milkshake. The staff removed the milkshake from Anthony's food tray. When he asked for it back, the staff said, "No, you can't have milkshakes." Anthony then swung and hit his staff. Another customer called the police and Anthony was arrested. Anthony was humiliated when the drink was removed from his tray, when he swung at the staff, and when he was hauled away in the police car. The situation could have been avoided if Anthony would have been the person leading the decisions. He may have drank the milkshake and he may have had some stomach aches because of it. He may decide he doesn't want to eat ice cream after the stomach aches, or he may continue to drink milkshakes. The team could have talked with Anthony about all his options and educated him on the way milk products may make him feel. Staff could have offered to take Anthony to the local vegan ice cream shop that just opened. There are many options that could have avoided this power struggle. Power struggles don't have to be caused by exchanged words. They don't have to be purposeful, and they don't have to be permanent. Let's talk about a team that alleviated a power struggle and how that impacted the individual's life. Missy had a restriction in her behavior support plan that stated she was not allowed to go out into the community for 24 hours after she engaged in a behavior. Frequent incident reports came in that Missy was eloping from her home and trying to hitchhike. The team was worried that Missy would put herself in danger. A team meeting was called. After discussing with Missy that the team realized that the restriction in Missy's plan was really putting Missy in danger. Missy was endangered and engaged in a power struggle in her own home and in her own community, with staff telling her she was not allowed to leave and access the community that she was part of. The restriction was removed from the plan, replaced with proactive strategies that focused on Missy learning how to use Uber on her phone. The team talked with Missy about things that she wanted to do in the community and empowered Missy to build additional circles of support. The term elopement didn't need to be in Missy's plan anymore. She was simply being a part of her community, supported by her team to do so. When we support people to make their own choices, like Missy's team supported her in her exploration of her community, a door is open that transcends any positive effect that reinforcing compliance may have. Reinforcing compliance may have singular and isolated benefits. Free will and making choice provides opportunities for education, experience, independence, and purpose. Reinforcing compliance may teach that a reward is given when a specific action is completed. Supporting choice and free will teaches us that our option matters, that we are in control, and that our choices have benefits and consequences. Compliance is incomparable to free will. Compliance is controlled by another person. Free will is reserved for each individual person and the choices that they make. Whether we agree with a person's choice or not, we can all agree that empowering people to make choices has long-term positive effects, creating an environment with dignity and respect and control. A natural result of respecting choice is individuals feeling empowered, respected, and in control of their lives. When people feel in control of their lives, they have the opportunity to decide what their dreams are and what looks best for their life. I can think of many examples of provider giving the microphone to individuals, empowering decisions, and supporting them to live their best life and meet their goals. Through the Copper process, quality reviewers have gotten the chance to speak with individuals participating in waiver support services across the state of Indiana, talking to them about their vision of their best life and how providers support them to get there. One individual spoke during the Copper process, expressed their struggles with gambling and how their provider supported them to get a job at the local casino, helping him continue the social activities the casino provided, which was his favorite part of the casino anyway. One individual spoke about his desire to go out drinking with his friends and how his provider supported him to go out to the bars. His provider helped him navigate transportation and provided education on the effects of alcohol. One night, he made a choice that made him feel sick the next day, and his provider continued to support him in decision making. And now, when he goes to the bar with past experiences and education that influences how many drinks he may have. There are countless other examples of providers respecting choice, empowering individuals to make choices, and to lead their waiver support services. We would love to hear from you in the chat about the ways you have empowered individuals to lead their waiver support services.
We'll give people a couple seconds to answer and read some of the responses. We have some answers coming in. Individuals deciding what goals are in their PCISP, empowering people to ask questions with doctor about their health, encouraging people to come to meetings with an agenda of what they would like to discuss, redirecting back to the individual when teams talk around the person, empowering people to make their own choices and supporting them, being part of all discussions, and hearing out answers and feelings.
Thanks, Kate. This final video is a great summary of what we've talked about today. It is 4 individuals expressing how important self-advocacy is in their lives as they take control of what is happening to them and around them. People have the right to take control of their lives. We have the responsibility to either support them or stay out of their way. Let's listen.
We ask self-advocates what self-advocacy means to them. This is what they told us.
Self-advocacy to me means that you are able to speak up for yourself and tell people what you want and what you need and get the right supports that you need and be able to tell your dreams and make that possible.
I'm sure you might be wondering, what is self-advocacy? What does it mean to you? To me, self-advocacy is about speaking up for myself and for others who are unable to speak up for themselves. And that is the key to self-advocacy. Speaking from your heart, speaking from your own opinion, telling people how you really feel. That is the keystone of what self-advocacy is. Because we try to influence other people to do the same thing. Because that is why there are tens and thousands of self-advocacy people-first groups all around this country get together, talking about issues that are important to you. They talk about how can we close institutions? How can we go out and vote? That is exactly what self-advocacy really is.
Self-advocacy to me is speaking up for yourself and not letting other people speak for you. There's all kinds of different kinds of self-advocacy.
At one time, I didn't know what self-advocacy means. I didn't speak up, Mile. Now look at me today. I'm speaking up what's on my mind. Speak up, speak out. I used to sit home. There was no day programs. I used to sit there, waste my time. You know, I went to a night school, and all it had was what people who had special needs and who were special, that they consider us. I saw people go down these steps at one time, go down these steps. They were speaking up for themselves and speaking up for their rights. That was born of a self-advocacy group, didn't know what they were. Me, the person who never talked much, didn't have much to say, thought, wow, these people are speaking up and know important issues. So I told my teacher in night school that I wanted to go back to regular school, where I was happy to go back, where I learned how to speak up for my rights, and I joined the self-advocacy group. Didn't join long, got out of it. Then I went on to a workshop, Meaningful Day Waste program, for 10 years. Got kicked out. No faults of my own, but that's a story and a half. Got there, went home, got a postcard from a self-advocacy group, and I joined it. These people taught me how to challenge myself. Anything they said, I listened to. They taught me how the important issue, that people should have meaningful relationship, one thing, that you can date anybody you want, with a disability or without. They can have a meaningful job. Who wants to be in the day waste program? They make pennies a day, while now you can make whatever minimum wage is. You know, have friends and pick your friends. Pick the things you want. Self-advocacy means to me is how I spoke up, spoke out, and spoke for other people who couldn't speak for themselves.
Self-advocacy is one of the many tools to help individuals gain the skills and confidence to speak up, speak out, and take control. The HCBS settings rule is the result of individuals, many self-advocates, and their supporters demanding that individuals receiving waiver services live their lives as if they were not receiving waiver services. Believe in the inherent dignity of individuals with disabilities as a human right. Be respectful. It is our responsibility. When individuals are treated with dignity and respect, they feel empowered to take control of their lives. Our responsibility is to support individuals to live successfully in their chosen community. This brings us to the end of our presentation. As always, we want to remind you of our mission to ensure that all people are empowered to live, love, work, learn, play, and pursue their dreams. If you need additional information, feel free to reach out to us at the 800 number provided or at bds.help@fssa.in.gov. As always, this is a reminder for you to stay connected with the Indiana Bureau of Disability Services by signing up for the DDARS listserv. And don't forget to follow the Indiana Bureau of Disability Services on Facebook. The BEADS Quality Assurance website includes information on the quality on-site provider review process, previously presented webinars, home and community-based settings rule, and investigations, and is an important resource to use when looking for tools you can implement. Also included on this resource slide is the link to Open Futures Learning, Charting the Life course, and the Person-Centered Risk Management training. You will find on this slide the links to the videos used in today's presentation, as well as the link to Karen Harvey's trauma-informed care presentation. You will receive a follow-up email from Zoom within 24 hours of the conclusion of this webinar. Please make sure that you complete the evaluation that is included in that email so we can improve future trainings. Just want to take this time again to say I appreciate everyone for attending today, and I thank you all for your attendance. And Richard, are there any questions that we need to address before we end today's presentation?
I do have two questions that I think would be appropriate for a brief discussion. Let's see. First one is, and this is referring to housemate visitation, and they ask, what if one of the housemates does not want a certain visitor that housemate 2 has invited?
Sure. So it is both of their homes. I think that that's an amazing opportunity for individuals to have conversations with their housemates and kind of learn how to, negotiate what works best for each of them. I think each situation is going to be individualized, and so you can't really have a blanket, answer to that question. But I do think that is an amazing opportunity for a conversation for, those housemates to work through what's going to work best and do some, decision making that way.
All right, and question 2, what if someone is not being allowed to select the caregiver of their choice?
That is a tough question.
Mhm.
I would say, I think conversation with the individual, choice is something that is presented based off what is available. I think if you're having those conversations as you're initially meeting with those individuals and finding out what works best for that person, then you can have the opportunity to look for staff members that are going to fit into some of those criteria that are important to and important for the individuals that you're providing services for.
That's all I have.
Okay, well, thank you everybody for your time today. Thank you, Richard, for attending with us, and we'll talk to you all later. Thank you very much.